What's good, my friends? The AUT Valentines update is here, and it was only a day late this time. When it comes to the update, I have basically nothing but positive things to say, so on that front, that's a good thing. Only problem is, I don't really want to be making this video right now. Honesty time, I was ahead of schedule this week and was really on top of my uploads and got a whole bunch of stuff done early. And then a time-sensitive thing like an update came out which I need to cover quickly, otherwise it loses relevance. In other words, I already had a video done for Friday, which is when you're watching this, and now I have to work when I thought I was going to be able to take some time off. So, oh well, is what it is. Because of that, under normal circumstances, it would probably be a lot more in-depth, but this is gonna be ending up pretty bare bones. I'm just gonna talk about what was in the update and the important stuff that you should take away from it. So sorry in advance for the lack of quality. Anyways, what's in the update? Well, let's talk about it. First things first, the new spec that was added. The update added the new Marrow spec, which I believe is from One Piece. The way you obtain the spec is pretty simple. You go to this boat on the side of the map where all the arrows spawn. It teleports you to an island, and on this island, after 45 minutes, the boss will spawn in. The boss's AI is leagues better than any of the other AIs in the game. They actually kind of act like a boss and not just teleporting around impossible to fight BS. The fight is fun and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Box, who I'm 80% certain is the guy who worked on the new AI, did a phenomenal job. And it makes me quite excited for any sort of future PvE content, because this is concrete proof that they can do it well. Anyways, after the boss is defeated, whoever did the most damage is able to pick up the item that they drop. And when you use said item, it grants you the Marrow spec. As for the ability itself, it's pretty underpowered at the moment, but I'm pretty certain that it's going to be getting buffs. But regardless of the actual balance, the visual effects and sound effects, as per AUT fashion at this point, are all a cut above the rest. Now obviously the new boss and the new spec wasn't the only thing that was added. Planetshaper, one of AUT's original ability concepts, was finally reworked, as well as an actual quest line was added to the ability. So you don't just obtain it by randomly rolling arrows or anything, there's actually some stuff involved. As for the actual quest right now, there are a lot of bugs with it. Revealing some backend that I'm probably not supposed to, so hopefully I don't get fired. But a lot of these quest things were not given nearly enough time to be tested, and it really shows. I can't totally absolve myself of blame though, because some of it is definitely my fault and I'll take responsibility. There were some pretty blatant problems with the quest and testing, especially when it comes to repeating the quest, which I know a lot of people have reported at this point. And while I did mention to the person that was working on it that they really needed to make it so that you could repeat the quest, and they said they were gonna go about working on that, I never followed up on it, and I obviously should have, because, well, this is what happened. So if you want someone to blame for the Planetshaper quest stuff not working, I'm your best bet, and I apologize. The quest itself is cool though, if a little confusing. When it comes to the actual rework of Planetshaper, I don't know what I expected, but what we got is a little bit underwhelming. The hitboxes, especially for the M1s, just don't feel right, and a lot of the time feel like they just pass through the opponent. And in general, despite getting reworked, the spec does still feel kind of bare bones. I couldn't tell you exactly why I feel this way, but I think a lot of people that have played Planetshaper by now know what I'm talking about. It doesn't mean that what is there isn't good, surely it is, and it goes without saying that the current Planetshaper is infinitely better than the old one that literally just did not function. And you know what, maybe I just expected things to be really over the top and they weren't. But it is what it is. Like I said, I don't think the Planetshaper rework was bad. If there is one thing that's just straight up incredible when it comes to the Planetshaper rework, is the space dimension when you use your gate ability. The space dimension is the coolest thing that I've seen in any of these games that I've played to date. Nothing comes close. The skybox looks awesome. The atmosphere and terrain really fits with the vibe of the stand. And the fact that you can literally fly around is so badass. The whole thing is awesome and probably sits in contention for my favorite part of the update, and it doesn't involve gameplay at all. I just can't get over how cool it is. Presentation-wise, I think it would be hard to top this with much of anything in an update to any of the games I play. It's simply incredible, and only experiencing it can do it justice. Moving on is the Gold Experience rework. I think that the Gold Experience rework may have set the stages for the Planetshaper rework to be disappointing, because the Gold Experience rework is the exact kind of thing that I was looking for. A bunch of new moves on top of reworked old moves, all topped off with that classic AUT visual and sound effect polish. Some of the balancing for the actual spec itself definitely still needs some work. If you land Berserk Senses, the opponent basically dies. And the fact that landing one M1 combo into Restrain, if done correctly, basically always does half someone's health is a little bit off-putting. And you know what? It could be worse. For reference, this is what you were able to do a day before the update dropped. I DM'd one of the developers and I was like, you absolutely cannot let this get into the main game. It can't be in the final build. It was very nearly Yasuo Yone all over again. So for those of you doubting if me being a tester was going to do anything, well, I did at least a little something for you. Moving on, there's 2 new quote-unquote mini specs that were added to the game. As far as I've been told, these mini specs take basically no development time whatsoever, and it shows because there's basically nothing on them. The gun and the fight saber effectively have 2 moves. In essence, they're just kind of joke specs. You can buy both of them at the shop, which, considering how bare bones the shop has been for so long, is kind of cool. And there was a poll in the Discord not too long ago after I recorded this, where they were talking about adding some standless moves to the specs, and that would definitely make them a whole lot better. But right now, they're just relegated to jokes, and with how little time it takes to make them, I think that's fine. Obviously, there were Valentines skins and stuff added, but I'm not going to go too far into that because that doesn't really affect gameplay. But in terms of balance, a few things were changed, and I think they're prudent to be noted. Number 1, and the biggest thing, is that base health across all abilities was set to 500. This is weird to try to understand, and it's weird to explain, and it's weird to see it in action. That's the best way I can sum it up. Initially, when I read this, I assumed every ability would have 500 health, and that's not at all what it means. I don't know what the old basic health was, but in more simpler terms, what this effectively did was made it so that everything has more health. I think this was an attempted band-aid to stop those massive combos that basically insta-kill you, but it really is just that, a band-aid. There are still combos that take an ungodly long time to finish, and there are still combos that do an absurd amount of damage. But it does make things last a little bit longer. Sans had some changes that I haven't been able to test yet, namely that they slow down when you're dodging. What that means is they basically take pseudo stun, but as far as I know, they still don't take stun, which means that they might slow down, but they can still just walk into you and start comboing you. So it might be a little bit easier to deal with Sans, but it's still gonna be a serious pain in the ass. The World Over Heaven's time stop can get canceled if you get hit, which I didn't know the move was uncancelable, and that was mad stupid, so I'm glad that got changed. King Crimson's eye jab got nerfed for some reason. King Crimson still doesn't work, so I don't know why they bothered with that. Yasuo and Yone's left mouse got changed quite substantially, and there might be some problems with it right now that make it not work correctly, but that's gonna get ironed out, I'm sure. Nocturnus ate some massive, well-deserved nerfs, as this stand used to be able to just basically insta-kill you before. All of its moves had really high priority, came out really quickly, and were just too strong. So I think all that's well-deserved. And if you couldn't tell by the blatant background usage of nothing but Tusk Act 4, this is the real thing that warmed my heart in this update, And it's the reason that I couldn't get myself to play any of the new stuff, because I could not tear myself away from Tusk Act 4 actually being good. They didn't fix everything about Tusk Act 4, namely the fact that you get super glued to your horse still, which is a little bit hilarious. And the biggest thing, which is Skull Bash still sometimes just doesn't land that final hit, and so you get punished for using it, or at the very least, you don't get damage for using it. But what they did do was they increased the stun on your M1s, which means no more hitting someone once, delaying your click by a little bit, and then getting punished. The act switch cooldown was reduced, so now you can switch between acts faster, although it is still pretty slow. Wormhole Crash, which is a move that didn't really need to get buffed, did, and happens quite a bit faster. And Rotational Guidance is a move that actually functions now. If you block it, you get guard broken, which you should have before. And if you block it before it hits you, it still gets blocked. This turned Tusk Act 4 from something that was mostly just a joke to an absolute powerhouse, especially against people who don't understand how it works. It's hilariously fun, and like I said, I couldn't tear myself away from using it to get myself to use most of the other stuff. Other than that, there isn't too much else here. Shadow of the World Requiem had a bit of a change on its regular knife throws, where if you hit the target, it summons some arrows around them and it goes down and hits them, kind of like the World Over Heaven's accelerated knives. And to make up for this, the cooldown's obviously longer because it used to be absurdly short. And the H move, Shadow's Energy, which is that big AoE move, is larger and deals a little bit more damage. They also said something about changing the way the world's road roller works, but I have no idea what they actually did because they didn't specify. I hope it means that if you land it, it actually hits, because even after some of the other changes, you could still hit people and do no damage, which is really frustrating. But that's about it. There you have it. That's what you need to know about the new AUT update. I'm sure it wasn't super informative, and really you could just go to the AUT page on Discord, go to announcements, and read about the update. But for some reason, people always watch these update videos. So if it wasn't already clear, I quite like the update. I like everything that's in it, and I'm just generally pretty happy with it. AUT as a game, especially its combat, still isn't that much fun to play to me, so I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot of videos on it. It's just gonna kind of stick to the way it was, but that doesn't mean that the stuff that wasn't added isn't still good. Let me know what you think about the update in the comments, because I'm curious to know what the general consensus has been. Other than that, if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like, subscribe. If you didn't, don't. And with all that being said, have a wonderful day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.